Hello folks, and welcome to the OceanState Cuisine, where in today's video I'm going to be covering a Rhode Island favorite called hot wieners. These things are delicious to the point that these restaurants have lines going out their door at lunchtime. But I'm going to be actually using a spice mix that you could order, and I'm going to have all this information in the description panel of today's video. Because making these from the ground up is totally impossible. Number one, you have to know the recipe, which these restaurants are not going to hand out. Now, my father did know somebody who knew of a good hot wiener sauce, but the list was as long as his arm. So with this spice mix that you can order from virtually anywhere, is going to really fulfill that appetite for New York system style hot wieners. So with no further ado, let's dive in and give it a look. And again, I will supply a link where you could order this hot wiener seasoning so that you can make this at home. So looking at the ingredient list right here on the left, we see that they recommend 1 pound of ground beef, 80% or less, and also a half cup of shortening. So this is like lard, like Crisco. Now, I know many of us do not stock up on lard in this day and age, so I used vegetable oil. The lard is going to give it a better consistency, but the vegetable oil works just as well. And then also for this amount of meat, you're going to be using a half an onion, finely chopped, and then 2 tablespoons of the spice mix. So now let's start putting this together. And keep in mind, I am not making a pound's worth. So in today's video, I'm only going to be using a 1/4 pound of ground beef. And for the cooking oil, I'm going to be using about 1/4 of a cup. Now, if you are using actual lard, just wait for that lard to melt down. Once we bring up the oils to temperature, you're now going to add your finely chopped onion. And you're going to cook this until it gets slightly brown. And I actually used a half an onion compared to what they have on the instructions. Because again, I'm not making as much of this. And also, 1 packet of this spice will yield you 3 pounds of mix. And you also want to reserve some of the diced onion for later on for the toppings. And now you want to give it a stir so that the onions are going to brown up evenly. I didn't really make mine brown, I just went translucent. So I would say after maybe like 2 minutes, the onion should be all set. If you want to go a little bit darker when it comes to the browning, just cook it a minute or 2 longer. Cooking onion longer like this will release more oils and flavors. And now in goes the ground beef. They actually said on the instructions that they add the spice mix after cooking the onion. But I added the ground beef first and added the spice mix right after this. So you're going to want this to continue cooking. And then as the ground beef cooks more, it's going to be easy to break down. So using something here like a potato masher would be perfect. This is not a tomato-based chili sauce because the base of a hot wiener sauce is chili. So one of the main ingredients when they actually make this seasoning or mix is chili powder. So this is not going to be a red sauce at all, it's going to be brown. Now I have this large salad fork that I use a lot in videos, and this is awesome at breaking down meat also. Now all the guys I grew up with back home, we all probably remember the cooking wagon on the corner of Atwood Avenue and Hartford Avenue in Johnston. When it came to a tomato-based chili, he had the best chili dogs I've ever had. But again, this is not going to be that type of a sauce. I just wanted to throw that in there. And the name of his truck was Mr. V's. So again, just continue cooking this, breaking it down, cooking it, until it becomes fully cooked and brown. Okay, now it's time to start adding the magic to this, and that's the spice mix. Now, if you want to go strictly by the instructions on the package, you want to actually add this mix right after sauteing the onions. Now, the directions say to add 2 tablespoons of the spice mix, and that's to 1 pound of ground beef. But seeing I'm only using like a third pound of ground beef, I'm only going to be adding maybe about 3/4 of 1 tablespoon. We see me add in a half a tablespoon here, but I ended up adding just a little bit more later on. Now once you add this spice, you want to give it a good stir. And then let it simmer on low for a while, and then cover it with a lid. Okay, so again, we're going to be cooking this total for an hour, covered on very low heat. But after about 20 minutes to a half hour, I like to check it and taste it to see if maybe I want to add more seasoning mix to this. So adjust it to your liking. And then earlier I said I ended up adding a little bit more, which we're going to see right here. And the secret to this is keep breaking it down and stirring it. But now if you notice, I added a little bit of water to mine because if you go to these wiener places, you will notice that when they take this mix out, it's very watery. Now, they don't mention this about adding water at all in the recipe or in the instructions. They just mention that they used a lard, but that would be a lot of lard, and it looks a lot thinner than that to me. So this is up to you if you want to try it with the water or not, but I feel that this helps it from scorching, and it adds that juice to the texture that we're looking for. To me, adding the water did not hinder the flavor one bit. So I think anybody who lives in Rhode Island could tell me that this looks pretty darn close to what we see in the wiener joints. So now next, let's start cooking the hot dogs, but you could actually start the wieners a little bit before this. But remember, you don't want the wieners to get scorched. So to help prevent that, I put some aluminum foil in the pan. And then you'll want to add a good amount of butter and cook these on a rather low heat and just keep turning them. Now this is one part of hot wieners at home that is going to be slightly off. And what I mean by this is that yes, we could get the seasoning mix, but we can't get the hot dogs or the wieners. See, the wiener places, their hot dogs are custom made. They actually come in on a roll. It kind of looks like a garden hose rolled up. And then they have a slicer and they slice them into size. And the main ingredients in their hot dogs is pork, veal, and beef. You do not want to use chicken hot dogs here. You don't want to use turkey, anything like that. In the market, you just want to stick to beef. Again, this is not meant to be a healthy recipe. That's why when you get hot wieners in Rhode Island, you're going to notice that the ends of a hot dog is sliced straight down. It doesn't have that bullet shape that we see in traditional supermarket hot dogs. That's because they've been sliced. Okay, now everything's been cooked. Now comes the fun part. Putting these wieners together. And you want to assemble them in the order I'm about to show you. And keep in mind, hot wieners, you do not add anything else but mustard when it comes to condiments. So you don't use relish, you don't use ketchup, you don't use any of that stuff. So the first thing is they steam the rolls or the buns. Now at home, most likely we're not going to have a bread steamer or a steam table. So all you have to do is microwave these. I'm wrapping mine up in some paper towel here. You could also put them in the microwave, heat them up for a couple of seconds in a plastic bag or whatever. And then next goes in the wieners. And then next in goes our mustard. And you want to use your traditional regular mustard on these. Actually, a spicy mustard might be really good. I just never tried it, but this is the way that we do it back home. So you're going to put a nice bead of mustard on these. Now, in the wiener places, what they use is a wooden dowel. And they dip the wooden dowel in the big bucket of mustard, and they just lather it right across. I then spread mine a little more with a knife, but you don't really have to do this. And then next goes the magic, the seasoning spice, and the hamburger mix. And a fork is best to use for this so that the excess grease drains off. And the time it's taken me to assemble these two wieners right here, the wiener places would have already done 10. And then next comes one of my favorite parts, the diced onion. Okay, now here comes the big secret, celery salt. You have to add celery salt to the top of the onions. The celery salt adds such a great flavor to hot wieners. Now I have a place near where I live now in North Carolina called the Hotdog King. They have a couple of locations, and their wieners look just like this, but they don't taste like this. And the reason being is because they don't know what celery salt is. Now the owner is Greek, and hot wieners came from the Greek side of the world. Most of these hot wiener places are owned by Greek nationality people, but they don't know what celery salt is here at the Hotdog King. And so there we have it, folks. Our hot wieners served with some potato chips on the side. Now, what I like to do when I'm in Rhode Island, or even at home if I make my own, is I like to use a side dish of home fries, potatoed home fries. And then the traditional drink for this, when you're in Rhode Island, because not many places have this in other states, is what we call coffee milk. And it is absolutely delicious. Now again, any information that I find when it comes to getting the hot dogs to make the wieners out of this, and also the link to buy the seasoning spice, will all be embedded in the description panel of today's video. And I thank you folks so much for watching the OceanState Cuisine. Remember to sub up and all that good stuff, because after all it is free and it does help in supporting the channel. And comment down below. We love to hear from you. And until the next time, happy eats, and we will catch you the next time.